there folks, Spencer Rimple the Moose Whisperer coming at you with adventure and hunting stories from around the world. And today's story is coming to you from Alberta, Canada. This was submitted by my good friend Evan Giesbrecht, who is a very accomplished whitetail deer hunter, and that's the story I have for you today. All right, stick around to the end and I'll tell you more about the author of this story and the other characters as well. But for now, let's get straight into the story. It was a beautiful fall morning. One of those days you just can't wait to go hunting. Very little snow, but a thick frost on the grass and a freezing chill in the air. Mid-November, and from past experience, I knew the whitetail bucks were in the rut. Not to mention, I had seen good track and some antler rubs last time I was out. Today just felt like the day, and I invited my hunting partner Chris Funk to come along. Chris is a great friend of mine. We grew up together and have shared many hunting experiences. You'll hear more about him again. So, we drove down the pitch-black dark roads of northern Alberta, Drayton Valley country to be exact. It wasn't a far drive, but I wanted the timing to be perfect, so we'd arrive just before first light. We were totally prepared, and I was decked out with my bolt-action .243, bullets, skinning knife, binoculars, warm clothes, and a snack. Now, Chris and I hunt a lot, and when the freezers start getting full, well, then we start to get picky on the size of buck we take. Both of us have trophies on the wall, but we're always looking for another beautiful, bigger whitetail. When we arrived, we had a quick discussion on just how big the buck would have to be to get us to pull the trigger. Well, I think we shouldn't shoot unless the buck looks like at least a score of 140, I said. Our standards weren't too high, and to tell you the truth, the freezers weren't that full, and I probably would have taken a 130. Now, I'm sure most of you listeners know this, but for those of you that don't, all antlered animals' antlers can be measured to create a numerical score that represents the size and beauty of the antlers. It's a combination of width, height, diameter, number of points, how symmetrical or non-symmetrical they are. If you don't know about this, I encourage you to research it as it's very interesting. This is the number you would use to enter it into the record books if it qualified, or the number you could tell your friends so they knew just how big a buck you had taken. All right, back to our story. Now, setting your sights on a certain size buck, like a big buck compared to any buck, makes the hunt much more difficult. For it seems like as soon as you make that statement, 2- and 3-point bucks start jumping out all over. I knew it was going to take some time, and I was ready to have all the patience in the world and enjoy my adventure with my old friend. We parked the truck, enjoyed our last sips of coffee, and started heading up a promising trail. The country here is rolling hills with scattered poplar forests, trails, and farmland. We were only about 400 yards in, and this area is looking good. I mean really good. We came up upon a ravine with 4 different cut lines intersecting about 170 yards away. I knew I didn't have to go any further. The time was right, the day was right, the place was right, and Lord willing and the creek don't rise, I'm going to get myself a big whitetail. I'm staying right here, I said to Chris with an authoritative dibs on that spot. No problem, Chris said, and headed off to find his own perfect spot. I literally sat down right there, right where I was standing. There was a skinny little poplar tree for me to half hide behind and use as a gun rest to steady my shot. Good enough, I thought, as the sound of Chris's crunchy steps had disappeared into the distance, and I got ready to sit still and be patient. I'm glad I'm a patient man, because you would not believe how long I had to wait until something happened. 15 minutes. Yeah, it was just one of those days. 15 minutes and this doe comes out into the open intersection. She seemed distracted, concerned, not looking towards me, but watching behind her as if something was following. Well, she had a look in her eye. Her tail was raised high, and I could just tell by looking at her, and the time of year, that that doe was in heat. And there's a darn good chance it's a buck that's following her. So she turned and started walking straight towards me. She had no idea I was there and seemed very distracted by her suitor. Then she turned and ran down the ravine that I was overlooking. Snap! I heard a sound and my eyes shot back to where I first had seen the doe. Well, sure enough, a nice set of antlers came walking out of the bush. He stood exactly where that doe had been, looking longingly off in her direction. I knew he wouldn't stand there for long, and I only had a few seconds to make up my mind. His antlers looked nice, but they were obscured by the willows and poplars behind him, and I couldn't really tell just how big they were. But what the heck, must be over our previously decided upon standard of 140. Up came my .243 rifle, and with the rest on that poplar, I quickly had his chest in the crosshairs of my 3x9 scope. Boom! I shot. That deer just stood there. He just lifted his leg, thumped it back down, and stood there. Are you kidding me? I couldn't have missed at that range with this rifle. Then he turned and ran down the exact path the doe had taken, which was straight towards me. Okay, well, this is getting even easier, I thought. And at about 70 yards, I shot again, this time hitting him square in the chest. Well, that took the legs right out from under him. He face planted into the snow and snow plowed right up to a big clump of trees. So his antlers were still pretty much obscured. Whoa, now that was exciting. With my heart pounding, I thought I'll wait here and give him the time to pass. Some of you non-hunters out there may not understand this practice. If you've made a good shot on an animal, it's best to just wait. Sit down and wait. Now, this is very difficult. Your adrenaline is flowing, excitement is in the air, but an experienced hunter knows, don't run, don't chase. If he was to run up to that buck right away, the buck, in seeing him, would more than likely have a surge of adrenaline, jump up and run even further away, possibly not to be found. But when you wait, when you leave him be, he will know he's mortally wounded, lay down, bleed out, and pass peacefully. So, I'm waiting. The usual rule of thumb is to wait 10 to 15 minutes. And after you've had that exciting of a time, 10 minutes can seem like an hour, let me tell you. But I continued to remain quiet and still, staring at the spot where I had seen the buck go down. Then, just 4 inches from my right ear, I hear a raspy whisper. "Hey, Evan!" Holy jeez, you scared the crap out of me. How that friend of mine could walk up behind me without making even a single sound, I do not know. But let me tell you, that Chris is one sneaky hunter in the bush. And I suppose my focus must have been very intent. Plus, I think my ears were still ringing. Okay, whew, now that he scared the crap out of me and my heart and adrenaline is back up to 1 million, and it's been a little bit of time, let's go take a look and see what kind of a buck I got. Chris was really excited for me, and as we got about 60 yards away, he stated, "Oh, hey, that looks not bad. That must be at least 140. "Well, of course it is," I said. "Wasn't that our agreement?" We walked a little closer. "No, that's a 150, Chris estimated. Well, I was getting really excited. Because most of the time when you shoot a buck, it looks huge in the scope, and after the shot, as you get closer to it, it starts shrinking. It's a phenomenon us hunters call ground shrinkage. What you think is a giant buck in your scope, by the time you get to it, it's just a small 4-point. Okay, but not this time. The closer we got, the more tines we seen. We walked a little closer. "That could be a 160, he said. And with 3 more steps, "I bet it's a 170. Well, now I'm getting really excited. The buck was still alive, and I finished him off with a round to the neck. Chris and I spent the rest of the morning field dressing that beautiful buck. We took our time and we caped his head out nicely. "He's a real big one. This one's going on my wall," I announced with pride. Well, Chris and I just couldn't stop smiling and laughing as we worked in the sunshine. I kept the antlers, the meat, the hide. I do all my own butchering, and I was incredibly thankful for our good fortune and easy hunt. That beautiful buck is still on my wall today. All right, Evan, thanks so much for that story. As promised, I wanted to tell you a little bit more about Evan Giesbrecht. Evan, a good friend of mine, in fact, we grew up together. We grew up together in the area of the Kootenays, West Kootenays, head of Kootenay Lake, just below Duncan Lake, if you ever want to look it up on a map. It's the middle of nowhere. We were bush kids, let me tell you. There's nothing around there. If you If you gathered up everyone around from 20 miles, you might get 200 or 300 people. School was a long ways away. We had to take a bus ride to the high school, which was about a 40-minute bus ride, I guess, to the neighboring town. Evan lived out, like I said, on the bush. His place was close to a creek, and he was the kind of kid to come home after school, and he wouldn't be sitting around playing video games. No, Evan ran a trap line. He had permission from people that had private land in a different place where he could canoe out, set traps for beaver and marten. And that's the kind of thing this fella did on his spare time. If he wasn't hunting, he was trapping, or he was butchering, or he was helping people hunt, trap, or butcher. I've never met a man that is more of an experienced hunter-killer of animals than Evan Giesbrecht, let me tell you. You name it, he's hunted it, and he's got a lot of them on his wall. Accomplished hunter, that's for sure. And you know what? If you ever get the chance to hunt with him, you'll love it, because this guy knows what he's doing. He can read the forest, the sign, anything when he's out there. Boy, you'll have a good hunting partner with you. Thanks so much, Evan, for sending us this story. It was an absolute pleasure to relay it. Folks, you got to tell me your stories as well. It's not that hard. I just want you to go on your phone, hit voice record, tell me your story. You wouldn't believe this one time I had a moose not only 20 yards away from me. Once you get that done, hit share, send it to info@themoosewhisperer.com. Yeah, that's me. I'll get your story and tell it to the world. Let's get our stories out there, folks. We're old timers. We need to tell these stories before they don't exist, and neither do we. Thanks for watching. More stories to come.